Hi everyone, my name is Jehan Ara. I'm the founder of the Nest.io, and today I've got some amazing guests with me. Thank you for joining us. We're going to be talking about the changing consumer preferences, especially with a lot of consumers buying online. And with me today, I have Ehsan Saya. Ehsan is a former investment banker and is now serving as the managing director at Daraz, Pakistan, which is South Asia's leading online shopping and selling platform present in Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Myanmar, and Nepal. Before becoming a part of Daraz a year ago, Ehsan was managing his own initiative, Joico, in Toronto, Canada. Ehsan founded Joico, which is a growing transportation and logistics company, in 2012, and for the next 6 years worked at multiple executive level positions in the company, including head of corporate development.
Like that's a very
Right?
thorough introduction.
Yeah, I want people to know before we start talking, right? Actually, I've cut it short. I've cut it into half
I'm
and still,
glad. I'm glad
yeah.
you.
But anyway, so it's interesting because you didn't, when you founded Joico, you were not the CEO, you were the head of corporate development
Yeah.
and interim CFO later, which is interesting because most founders think that they have to be the CEO of the company. So that's something maybe we can also talk about at the tail end of our discussion. And Essen is an alumnus of the University of Western Ontario, the Richard Ivey School of Business. He was nominated to the Ministry of Planning Development as Special Initiatives Advisory Committee, which is a strategic think tank on policy issues. And right now he's joining us from Canada, must be really early there. And so he's got a gallon of coffee with him. Thank you for joining us, Ehsan. I know you'll be back in a week or so, but we just wanted to have this session now, and thank you for agreeing to join us.
Oh, thank you
We
so much.
also have with us we also have with us Myra Qureshi. Myra graduated from the London School of Economics and Political Science in 2004. She completed her executive MBA from Georgetown. Now, I don't know whether I'm pronouncing this right, but is it Isade? Yeah, I thought so. Isade, okay. In 2012, Myra started her career in the investment banking. Why do we have so many investment bankers here? Investment banking and financial services industry in London, in the UK, where she worked at Citigroup, ING, and Deloitte for over a decade. She then returned to Pakistan and is doing something totally different from what she was doing then. She set up Conatural, Pakistan. It was Pakistan's first natural and organic skin and hair care company in 2016. The company sells online through its own stores, retailers, and is the leading local natural skin and hair care manufacturer that now also exports to the UK and the UAE. In 2018, Co-Natural was used as a case study for the World Bank Pakistan Entrepreneurship Ecosystem Study. Myra is often a speaker and an influencer at various local and international platforms in Pakistan. Thanks for joining us, Myra. And we will talk more about what you do once we get into the conversation. Last but not least, we have Shayaan Tahir. Shayaan runs HomeShopping.pk. Is it .pk, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Which is the largest homegrown e-commerce marketplace in Pakistan. He's seen as one of the pioneers of the e-commerce industry and has spent the last 12 years building his venture from the ground up. Naturally blessed with an acute sense of business acumen, Shayaan started his own business at the age of 21. Was it 21? I thought you were much younger when you started your business, weren't you?
It was 21. It was 21. Yeah.
Okay. He's a big advocate for building companies which focus on growth while keeping themselves sustainable, and has displayed that by growing home shopping in a profitable manner over the last 12 years. He also owns a 35-year-old restaurant chain in Karachi, which I just found out about today. And the restaurant chain where many of you may have eaten is called Chips Fast Food. I love their burger, which he acquired in 2015 and has made angel investments in some of the startups in Pakistan as well. So welcome, guys. Thanks so much for joining us. And I really did want to, I know Ehsan said, why such long introductions? But you guys have accomplished so much in such a short period of time. I wanted everybody who's joining us to know, how accomplished you already are. And then we can, they will be able to ask you many more questions which surround your areas of expertise. But let's get right into it. So each one of you, and any one of you can start. Would you agree that Pakistani consumers were slow to adopt e-commerce and online purchasing before COVID-19 happened, but that has dramatically changed since the crisis?
I can start on this. I think
Yes, yeah.
I think Pakistani consumers were slow, but not only. I mean, there's a lot of other socioeconomic factors that make that happen, right? I mean, if you look at your availability of data in every nook and corner of Pakistan, availability of internet, the amount of smartphones that there are in the country, frankly, even if you go down like the duty that you pay on a smartphone, so the accessibility of smartphone has, you need all those foundational and infrastructure there in order for Pakistanis to participate in online shopping. Having said that, I still think that the Pakistani shoppers are not necessarily, they've been slower to come online. And there has been generally a trust deficit that has been there. B, there's been historically issues with either infrastructure like logistics or payments, and so some of these elements have slowed down the growth. I think post COVID, some of the barriers have been broken down. I don't firmly believe that all of those are long-term barriers that have been broken down. I think some countries have done a phenomenal job historically. When you look at China in 2003, that broke down a barrier for a very, very long time, and it had lasting impacts. I don't know if as a country we did the same this time. But I do think that there has definitely been an uptick, and I know at Daraz we've seen an uptick in certain categories. Of course, it's been a very category-driven purchasing pattern, and so I think it's definitely increased. I don't know if it's a long-term sustainable increase though.
Right. So, Jehan, what I feel is that there's definitely been an uptick that we've seen. But if you see from 220 million people that we have, about 60 to 70 million people are currently online. And out of that, not more than 10 million people are the active online shoppers in Pakistan. So the way I see it, we haven't really penetrated e-commerce in a massive way in terms of what the opportunity really holds. And there are a lot of reasons around it. I think we could go into them at a later point. But yes, COVID has drastically kind of gave us exposure to a certain amount of audience which we never had exposure to before. People who were never into e-commerce are now trying to buy something online, and those customers generally have different kind of needs, and we're still trying to understand that particular customer. We just feel that our products are not really made for those customers, and I think it's a great opportunity, which is now we're trying to think how we could address that particular customer in Pakistan.
Okay. Myra, you want to chime in to this question as well?
Sure. So I agree with Shayaan and Ehsan entirely. But one thing I'd like to add is that what people don't realize in Pakistan is that the retail boom and the online boom kind of came at the same time. So and I speak with a female lens here and a shopper's experience lens. So like the big malls, for example, I mean, Dolman Mall and the big malls in Karachi were always there, but Karachi is just one part of Pakistan. If you look at Lahore and Islamabad, Packages Mall, Emporium Mall, this mall culture that everyone used to flee, okay, we want to go to Dubai because of the malls, we want to go to abroad. So the shopping nature of Pakistan has only come in the last 5 years. If you look at Emporium, it's only 4 years old. If you look at Packages Mall, it's only 3 years old. And the boom in retail, if you look at worldwide studies, came with the advent of these mega malls. Now, those only came to Pakistan in the last 5 years, throughout Pakistan, other than Karachi. And the online assimilation also has come in at the same time with people like, Daraz going really big HomeShopping being known, all these brands coming online. And I feel that takes time to assimilate. And then, of course, coupled with, as Ehsan and Shayaan have both said, is that the rise of cheap smartphones is also last 5-year phenomena. Q Mobile, etc., have only come in the last 7 years. And so all of these things will take time to assimilate. which is why the uptake in e-commerce was slow. But having said that, I think that during COVID, in my industry, I have definitely seen that there's been an uptake. We've had customers, because we are both online as well as in retail, and we have our own stores, and our own stores were shut down for a very long time. So were a lot of our retail outlets. A lot of those shoppers which didn't, want to buy online have come online, and personally, I don't like the cash on delivery model. I think every online person doesn't like the cash on delivery model because of the credit risk. But people have also started asking for, other forms of payment. So I think that there is an uptick, and I believe that this change is here to stay, because a lot of people who are uncomfortable with ordering online are now comfortable, and it's just so much easier. You breeze through on your computer or your smartphone and you order, and it's delivered to your doorstep. So I think the convenience factor, a lot of people were not used to that, and I think they are, and I think that there will be an uptick, and this is here to stay. I mean, Ehsan is probably right that we'll have to see, the data will have to prove on whether this will be long lasting, but I think for the next 6 months or foreseeable future, it's definitely here to stay.
Okay, so that was going to be my next question. Actually, do you think that many of these customers, and Shayaan was a bit, hesitant to really say that these guys are going to, these new customers, they're going to stay online, or they're not your traditional customers, right? But they have been forced to come online. Do you think that many of them, and what kind of percentage do you see going back to going into shops, retail stores, and just abandoning the online process? Or do you think some of them will stay? What's your take on all of this? Shayaan, if you could start, and then we can go on to Ehsan and Myra.
Right. So I do feel that if we are able to provide a great experience to these first-time shoppers, this would be a great opportunity for them to kind of start shopping online more regularly. But the kind of customers I was referring to, these are customers who are not really comfortable using platforms. These are customers who are reaching out to us through WhatsApp, and they just want to complete the transaction on WhatsApp only. They want us to pull product images from the website, share it with them, give them prices, and these are customers we've never been exposed to before. And when the lockdowns happen, we don't see them anymore, so they're probably now back shopping through their shops now. We do see a spike with in terms of sales. We are doing 3x of what we were doing post-COVID, but those level of customers, those kind of customers that we saw in those early lockdown days are not there anymore. I think we need to rethink our products if we are to serve those customers. And that is essentially a larger chunk of Pakistan. I mean, I do feel that is somewhat a reality check to all of us. And we are, thinking our way in ways which we could, kind of address this particular customer base.
Okay. Ehsan, what's your take on this?
Yeah, I think much of it depends on how long lockdowns last in different countries. And there was an interesting study done. Unfortunately, I don't have the exact number or the company that did it, but I'll give you the sort of the summary of it. But essentially, they sent a survey to their customers 1 week into the lockdown, 2 weeks into the lockdown, and week after week, and then they asked them, how likely are you to go back to offline shopping? And every week that there was the lockdown extended, they were less and less likely to go back to their old behaviors. So I think a lot of it, agree with completely with Shayaan, is that it depends on the customer experience you provide, and if you provide one that focuses on the convenience element, then they're more likely to come back. But B, the longer it continues, you have more and more customers that just have to try it. I mean, a guy who needed to go out and buy a cable for their iPhone, maybe he may not go out and he'll just order it and try it out. So I think a lot of those, when you had to pay to acquire that customer, COVID sort of did that acquisition for you in some ways. And I think that the length of this, how long the pandemic lasts, will impact how many customers go back to their old habits or how many stick to it.
Do you think they will become more comfortable? Do you think they'll become more comfortable using the online platform, and that's why they'll stay on? Or
yeah, without a doubt, and I think it's also, we've at least noticed a shift, and I'm happy to discuss the numbers in future questions as well. But we've noticed a shift in terms of customers, especially Pakistani customers, were always very value driven. You know, if there was a 5 rupee difference, then they would really chase that 5 rupee down. And it's you know, maybe that's a bit of an exaggeration, but it is to some degree it is true. And now I think that the customer is very driven by convenience, and that's been a very dramatic shift that we haven't seen in you know, in at least in Daraz for some time, where the organic customer is coming on his or her own. They're buying you know, on his or her own, especially specific categories, and a perfect example is the health and beauty category, which is generally very organically driven. So I do think that trying it and being, you know, having a good customer experience, and part of that customer experience is how used to are they to the platform? Do they understand how COD works? Do they understand how digital payments work? Are they comfortable with the return process? Did they get the product that they ordered? You know, what they saw and what they got, is it the same product? Were the reviews accurate? All those things, then once they get comfortable with it, that helps them come back. Because at the end of the day, you know, why do people shop online in North America more? Is because that convenience element. And that convenience element, I think as an industry, still need to push significantly for.
Myra, you touched on this before as well, that they, you know, they may come back, they'll probably come back once, even though retail outlets will open up. Do you think that most of them will continue with the online process, or do you think some of them will choose to go out into the malls and what have you, and they're just sort of biding time because, you know, they have no other option right now?
So I've been kind of obsessed with this topic because it affects my business so much. So I've been reading behavioral theory analysis and all of that stuff. And I read a very interesting behavioral study. It was done, it's called the trans theoretical model. And it was introduced in the late 1970s by, I think it was James Prochaska and Carlo De Clemente. And they basically took like plagues and saw how patterns and behaviors of people changed. And so they basically talk about 5 things. Is that, you know, stage 1 is a pre-contemplation of people. Then stage 2 is a contemplation of something, is that, yes, something has happened. Then it's a preparation. Then stage 4 is action. And stage 5 is maintenance. And they did a YouTube series on this behavioral study analysis. And they said that kind of people are in the action phase right now. So time will tell whether there'll be a maintenance of this behavioral change in terms of COVID and online shopping and convenience, and the fact that a lot of the stuff that you were used to doing, like going to restaurants, etc., whether your behavior will change and have a lasting impact. And all of the data so far, I mean, we don't have too much data, we only have like 4 or 5 months data, says that these behavioral changes are here to stay. KPMG actually posted a pretty cool survey a couple of weeks ago. And within that, they said that 49% of all the consumers that they interviewed said that they will not return to pre-COVID-19 levels of activity, especially spending activity, until there's a vaccine available. Now, is that the same thing in Pakistan? I don't know, but that is kind of a worldwide thing. And then they also said most people, and there's something like 49% of the people who were interviewed also felt that things were not going to go back to normal for at least 2 years. So that also kind of, you know, that you can infer that people are going to make this change and, you know, be very, very comfortable doing what they're doing now, which is a big shift to online. Now, I've seen that in I can't speak for Daraz, I can't speak for HomeShopping, but we sell beauty items and consumer goods, and we've seen that so many people, more organic traffic, are so much more inclined to buy online than, you know, actually going to stores. So my personal opinion is that I think this is here to stay for a while. And if it is here going to be staying for a while, then people will it'll become the new normal and will change the status quo for Pakistan.
Okay. Now, the next question is, in your opinion, has the virus affected consumer buying power? Are you seeing the average basket size fall or rise? So that's something that, you know, a lot of people are talking about now in business, that perhaps the number of transactions may have increased, but the basket size and the kind of items that people are purchasing are different. So, Shayaan, if you want to start, or Ehsan,
Yeah, so we usually, because we deal in high value goods, so our basket size is usually much higher from all the other players. Our average basket size is over $200. But what happened after COVID was that because we were selling a lot of these masks and goods that people would need immediately. So because of that, our basket size has reduced. The average basket size is definitely reduced because the number of orders have increased drastically. And it's mostly things like masks. We've done quite well. We've been supplying to B2B clients and also to the consumer business. So yeah, we've seen a fall in our average basket size, but the number of orders have increased quite a lot. Overall revenues is basically what matters to us, and revenues we can see them grow. I mean, they've gone 3x since post-COVID. So that's a very immediate the difference that we see today.
Are there any products that you've seen people are not buying, maybe because of the uncertainty of COVID? And that's what I was trying to get at.
So I
Are
think
people
the
nervous to
fastest
buy expensive items?
Yes,
Sorry.
we haven't seen any impact happening towards the fashion side of things in terms of apparel and all. We've seen a great uptick with toys. We've seen a great uptick with the appliances side of things, mostly around the electronic segment. I think that's where we've seen most of the different categories growing. We can see a lot of books selling now on the platform, which wasn't the case previously. I think that's generally because there aren't too many booksellers online. So yeah, that's working out for us. Different categories which are working out for us. People have the capacity to search and find stores, and that's how they eventually find us.
Okay. Ehsan,
Yeah, I would say
what's
that
your experience with this?
yeah, the way I would look at it is sort of if we look at it chronologically. So when the lockdown initially started, there was one of the things that we started focusing on was groceries, right? So we very quickly introduced DMart, which was a very grocery focused initiative with operations as well as the commercial elements. And what we noticed was that that the basket size was increasing, but per item it was dropping. But it was interesting because people were really starting to hoard. They were buying a lot more things. So basket sizes holistically, and the number of items was going up. Per item was probably going down, but they were just generally buying more things. And then what we noticed is that it was actually interesting because when in the first few weeks when in the lockdown we were only allowed to deliver essential goods. Well, first I think no one was allowed to deliver anything, but then it eventually opened to essential goods, then it eventually opened to other categories, and we were a bit wary that there would not be this demand for things like what you just spoke about, like high value items like mobile phones and TVs and ACs and stuff. But I was actually a bit surprised to see that the demand was still there. And my theory here is that the retail market has shrunk without a doubt, and it has shrunk for at least the medium term. Generally, people are not going out and buying, and there's no doubt that the retail market has shrunk. E-commerce as a percentage of that retail market has probably increased. So customers that are probably need those products are just coming online and buying instead of going offline and buying. So generally, I think the purchasing power that you spoke about, without a doubt, I think it has dropped because people have that element of uncertainty. I think we at e-commerce have just been a little bit fortunate because we grabbed a little bigger portion of a smaller pie, but for us, it was still a bigger portion, right? So I think that's actually where we got a bit lucky in that sense. But we do see that the purchasing power of people is dropping.
Okay. Myra,
Yeah, so
what's your take on this?
yeah, I mean, purchasing power. So for us, it was a bit of a different story because we were the first people to launch hand sanitizers in Pakistan before even any of this lockdown stuff even came about. So we launched them in end of February before, because we knew it was going to come here. So that really saved our marketing. There was a major customer switch because as soon as lockdown hit, we'd already done huge amounts of hand sanitizer business. As this COVID, outbreak story started coming into Pakistan. So for us, it was a switch in consumer preferences. But then as lockdown happened and women and men, especially women, had more time, they were at home, so they could do more roop singhar, so to speak. So there was a major uptake in beauty products. So we actually did pretty well. However, having said that, we can't really measure. Maybe it was we don't know whether this was because of lockdown or because stores were closed and our online was open. So we haven't quite figured that out yet. It's difficult to say. But generally, yes, I mean, spending power has decreased. It's going to continue to decrease. A lot of industries are in trouble. I mean, if you read the World Economic Forum report, like most industries are going to shrink, retail is going to shrink. A lot of people are going to have pay cuts or lose their jobs. So the situation looks grim, but I mean, for us, we've been all right for our sector, so to speak.
Okay.
So I feel like basket
Ehsan, there was
prices
a
will go down.
question. Okay. There was a question from a participant, and I think you answered it online, but I think for the benefit of people who are listening in, and there we've got about 100 people on Facebook who's logged in, can you just answer that, and then maybe one of the others can take it? Let me just read out the question. One of them is, considering the shift from brick and mortar to online shopping, how do you think you can transfer the physical experience of shopping to an online store? Okay, that's the first question. Let's deal with that before we go to the next one. And then let's answer that as well. And this question is from Afira Ali. I hope I pronounced her name correctly. Yeah. Ehsan, you want to start since you've answered this online? Or
Sure, I can start. And I think actually Myra would have a very good perspective on this. I answered it online as well. And I think actually we're not necessarily looking for offline to go online. I think actually in Pakistan, you have to do an online and offline combination. And that's what makes it successful. I mean, when I look at sort of what has helped us build trust in Daraz was that we opened 50 hubs across the country where a customer can come and yell at someone, because if he didn't get a product that he had ordered and he just doesn't want to call, he just wants to show up and be like, "Yaar, maine ordered kya tha, ye nahi mila hai, ab wapas le lein, idhar hi le lein." And so in Pakistan, it's not purely going online. Whereas I think in North America, you can just go purely online. So first of all, I think that's something for us to keep in mind, that in order to be successful, it's a combination of online, offline. Whereas I think the question is really going towards how do you get that experience online? And I think that experience online, the beautiful part about online is that it's a peer-to-peer system. So there's ratings, there's reviews, there's pictures. And you get a lot of insights from that you actually don't get from offline. If you offline jate hain, you have a dukandar who says, ye to number one product hai, and then you have his words to believe and you sort of have to buy it. Whereas in online, you have ratings, you have reviews, you have people sending pictures, so you can actually rely on each other and help each other actually get the product that's best, right? And that's what creates that system of integrity, where if you have a seller who's not selling a good product or not selling an experience that's where it needs to be, that seller eventually cannot do business because he or she is just not able to sustain a proper business. Whereas a person who is really doing a business in an ethical way and providing the best price can. And that's the beauty of online, is that you actually suddenly have a whole universe. You have someone in Peshawar that can sell to someone in Karachi, and you also have someone in Hyderabad that can sell to someone in Peshawar. So you don't need to buy within the same vicinity. But so I don't think it's, I think that experience part is sort of solved in that way while going online.
Right. Shayaan, is there anything you want to add to that?
Right. So I absolutely agree with Ehsan. An omni-channel approach is the right way forward in Pakistan. We following the same trend. We opened the first outlet back in 2010, and that was when everyone said that maybe this is not the best move because online is not supposed to have an outlet. But we took that route because that's what the customers wanted. And it totally depends what they're trying to sell. I would want to know exactly the kind of product that they're trying to sell, and then you could build the experience around it. I mean, I've seen certain people taking the route of running Facebook Live, just showing their products through a video and trying to get orders around that. I mean, maybe that medium might work for them. If he's a furniture seller, then people want to see the products through a video before they could make that decision from all different angles, as opposed to just make that decision over a picture. So I do feel that it totally depends what this guy is selling, and there are different third-party platforms like Shopify and few others which could help him have that independent identity. He could create that. He could partner up with different marketplaces. Usually, brands do tend to start off having their own assets, and at some point they realize that e-commerce itself is a pretty complex business to scale. So then they try to partner up with different marketplaces who could take care of a lot of the problems that e-commerce comes with. So I think that kind of relationship is something that people should look forward to and try their bit in e-commerce for the time being. Yeah.
Yeah, I think even the offline purchasing depends to some degree on discussions online, because even if I've seen a product or heard about a product from a retailer, first I'll go and ask my friends on Facebook, hey, I want to buy this, and these are the things available. Have you bought it? What has your experience been? Is it a good product? So it's not necessarily only restricted to online purchasing, but also offline purchasing. Myra, so what do you think? What do you think that? So
I
what was
think
the
Ehsan
question?
and Shayaan, they nailed it.
Yeah.
They nailed it. The only thing that I can add to that is that, you know, I'm in the beauty industry. So, and I'm in a beauty industry in Pakistan. So I could, even though I would love to be completely online, but we have to have some physical presence, because women want to come and feel the product, smell the product, try the product. It's that kind of industry. Even if you look at most of the beauty brands abroad, even some of the really big ones like Body Shop or Lush, most of their stores are experiential. I mean, look at what Glossier has done. They've made this really amazing store and they're burning so much money with that, but that's to give the customer experience. So I feel that in Pakistan, right, as it currently stands, we could never be totally online. But you know, maybe people can come into our store and they really like the product and they want to repeat buy. They can do that online. But as I mean, Essen nailed it. He said you get so much other stuff online. You get reviews, which is very important for skincare and hair care products. You can talk to a customer in depth. You can kind of shop at your ease and at your convenience. And the stores will always be there for that experience. You know, you come in, you smell it, you like it, you test stuff. So I don't think that's not going away. This is just a temporary shift.
Okay, there
But
was
online is
another
also
question.
very important.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So there was another question that I think Ehsan has also answered, which is from Mir Ali. He says what we were talking about earlier, that e-commerce customers' biggest issue is the difference in what products are shown on the website and what is the actual product that is delivered. He says that he's had personal experiences when one of the websites showed something else and then uh, delivered something totally different. What is being done to allay the consumers' fears about non-genuine, poor quality products?
I think there's a
So
big market for this personally. I mean, so for example, like Trustpilot, right? Like you, Cheyenne and Essen, you probably know what Trustpilot is, right? Like abroad. So I think that there's a big need for this in Pakistan, where you can actually go and rate specific websites. I know Daraz does it really well as well. Like Daraz, a seller gets points and ratings and reviews, and so that kind of gives legitimacy. But I think that, you know, this is something that can be done in Pakistan. Like in the UK, if there's a brand that sells you something that's not very good, then Trustpilot will pick up their reviews and their deliveries and whether stuff matched what was supposed to be sold or not. And I think this is a great opportunity in Pakistan to do. I don't know anyone who's doing it, but I think it's a great opportunity for that to happen. And on the flip side as well, I would say for customers as well, because for online retailers, I feel like the credit risk is so high with cash and delivery. I find it in my business. I talk to a lot of people who are in the online business, and they like this cash on delivery. You'll send it to a customer, and they won't accept it. And you know, it's sometimes up to 10% of your entire revenue, and that's such a huge credit risk that the retailer has to take. And so, just the way Trustpilot is, I feel like there should also be a database of bad customers. And I was actually talking to some of the logistics guys that you guys should get together and put that together, because it'll help all retailers. Because usually the bad eggs are, you know, they're across industries. So I feel that, you know, it's a huge opportunity for someone to actually go and do this. What do you think, Essen? I mean,
Yeah, I
Faraz,
think
not so
yeah,
well.
I think there's, it's actually when it's definitely a huge problem, right? I think there's some short-term things you do, there's some longer term. So I'll walk you through sort of what Daraz does, and I think there's still more that we can do, and in fact not only Daraz but as an industry that more that can be done. So I think one is that you need to tell the customer that they are 100% protected, and they should always be 100% protected. In a marketplace, in any marketplace, there are instances when bad things happen, right? So you order a product which you order a product which you may not get the same product, you may get a fake product. There's many things that happen. So the customer needs to know without a shadow of doubt that they will get their money back. So I think it's very important on every e-commerce company to guarantee that the customer gets their money back. Secondly, I think they need to then have a repercussion on the seller, right? So unfortunately, one of the things it's very difficult to do is predict if a seller is going to be a fraudulent seller before they even sell. So you need the data from, right? You cannot assume someone is a fraudulent seller from the get-go. So you need a very tight control of how to become a seller. So you need to make sure you have at least the banking information. You can, you have their CNIC, and then they have all the data that you can collect. Then you need to really train them on how to be a good seller and the advantages of being a good seller and the disadvantages of a vicious cycle of being a bad seller. So if you're a bad seller and you say, I'm selling you a phone and I put a rock in it, you may most likely you will not get away, at least with a platform like Daraz, where the customer will get their money back and you will be delisted permanently. But if you get away with it for the short term, you will lose out in the long term. And sellers that have realized this really build a long-term sustainable business by providing an exceptional customer experience. So what we need to do with that is on our end at least, we start penalizing sellers. So if we know that if a customer says that, hey, I ordered a black shirt and this guy delivered me purple shorts, and that's not the product I ordered, we will penalize them, right? So we will initially financially penalize them. We will temporarily delist them. After we temporarily delist them, we put them through training again, in which they need to go through. We have Daraz University. I don't know if any of you know about it, but I think it's one thing I love about Daraz is that we actually educate thousands of sellers for free, not only on e-commerce, but actually MBA courses from KSBL. But the point is that so we train them on this, and then if they do not pass the quizzes and they're not able to do it, then they don't come back online. And if they are still fraudulent sellers, if they do something that is not, then we permanently delist them, right? So you have to be very strict with the sellers, and at the same time, I think you cannot be you cannot just be blindly strict with sellers, because there is fraud also happening from the customer side. There are customers that will get something and they'll just say, oh bhai mujhe kuch aur mila tha. And it's unfortunate that this happens, and I think this is hopefully a cycle or a phase that we get out of, that fraud stops happening at different areas, so we can actually rectify it. But I think first and foremost, like I said, the responsibility comes on the e-commerce company to give the customer the assurity. Then secondly, work on the sellers. Short term, for us it's been penalties, but long term it's been a lot of training. It's a lot of just foundational, spending time with them and saying कि भैया अगर आप ये करते हैं तो आपका फायदा नहीं होगा, and really getting down to the nitty gritty and saying that it's actually more advantageous for you, that you can, if you do this properly and in an ethical way, it's better for you, and really showing them how it's better for them in the long term.
Thanks, Ehsan. So it's education, it's awareness, it's maturity of the market. I think all of that counts. Shayaan, would you like to answer this, or should we move on to the next question? How does HomeShopping deal with it? I really would want to know, what are the precautions that you take? What are the things that, if there is a customer complaint, how to handle it?
I do feel this is one of the major challenges of the industry, and that's pretty much the reason why e-commerce didn't really cross a certain ceiling in Pakistan so far. And what we did to tackle with this particular problem is that early on we were a very open-ended marketplace where we would basically let anyone sign up and start selling immediately. What we realized soon was that the fraudulent sellers would keep changing IDs, keep changing numbers, and would start reappearing on the platform. So eventually, I think this was early 2014, where we decided that we are going to be a restrictive marketplace, where we only work with people who either have shops or are direct importers, because most of the times these middle party sellers don't really have control over the products to start off, because they have their own set of vendors that they're dealing with. And when we want them to replace or return a product, they don't really have that level of controls, and they have to run back to their parent or real importer or supplier of the product. So we started working with people who are pre-verified, pre-vetted, who have been in the offline space for a very long time. They generate 90% of their business through offline trade. And that's how we are able to kind of work with them online with certain terms in which they have to replace or return a product within 10 days period. This is something that we go through while we sign them up, and this way, and because we work mostly in with branded products. So we don't really get to that point where people are facing a lot of problems. But even if that happens, due to our contracts with the suppliers that we work with, we are able to replace that very quickly. This was something part of home shopping right from the very beginning. 2008, we had the first 7-day return policy of Pakistan, and I think that was one of the main reasons why people started trusting us, and we started seeing response happening for home shopping in a very organic manner. Because we were like the first company to come up saying that regardless of what you buy, because that wasn't how things were in Pakistan. And even till date, we don't really have an offline return policy with most of the brands. So when we started offering that, that kind of worked for us. And till date, this is what we do. We have a limited range of vendors. And even if we're signing new suppliers, we make sure that they have a decent reputation to work with. We do feel that there are no dispute resolution mechanisms with any of the Facebook pages or any of the courier companies. And we've been working with the National E-commerce Council that is formed a while back. So I'm chairing the fact that we need to make sure that courier companies could in some way play the role of facilitating the customers to manage a dispute. I mean, if a customer faces any sort of problem with the product that he's purchased, the consumer could go back to the courier company and file a claim, and the seller needs to kind of resolve that with the seller. Otherwise, the courier company would settle it in the favor of the customer or the seller, provided what the proofs are. So I hope that happens, but I do feel this is one of the major challenges for e-commerce to really grow in Pakistan.
Might be a bit difficult if the courier company doesn't want to get into that space, because it's, to them, it's not their problem, right? They've delivered the product, they picked it up, delivered it. So why should
It's an ecosystem
get
problem.
involved?
At the end of the day,
Yeah,
there might not be any
yeah,
e-commerce
it
business
is.
left
It is.
if they don't take care of it.
Yeah, I think everybody has to work together to find out how to solve that piece and who's going to take it on. And if the courier company comes into the picture and says, yes, okay, this will work, and maybe they can, you know, there's some charges or something for return and stuff like that. Perhaps that will work. Myra, I wanted to know, since your brands have an international presence, what differences have you seen in consumer preferences here and abroad? Because you're selling in the UAE and UK, right? And also in Pakistan. Are the consumer preferences different? And how so?
You mean post COVID-19, right, or generally?
Generally, and also, yeah, because of the
okay.
yeah.
Okay, so generally, yes, there are different. I mean, women in Pakistan, for example, this is a funny thing that you want to know is that abroad, like in the UK, most people are more concerned about their bodies, so they buy more body-based products. Whereas in Pakistan, you hardly sell any body products. You'll always sell a face product or a hair product. So the customer profile and preference is completely different in Pakistan. In the UAE, it's a mix. In the UK, it's very different. But post-COVID is where,
yeah.
Sorry?
Yeah. What has changed post-COVID?
Yeah, so post-COVID, I feel, generally everyone has switched to, this is something that we see across the board. Even the reports point to this, and our business points to that, is that people have moved to more sanitization, more cleansing, more cleaning-based products. So obviously, there's more soap, there's more sanitizers. There's not a lot of luxury brands that are selling and expensive, let's say, face creams and stuff. So people have moved to necessity products and sanitization and cleaning-based products. We've seen that across the board. What we haven't seen in Pakistan is that post-COVID abroad, people are now starting to demand stuff like recycling. How does this product or company contribute to carbon emissions or climate change? They started talking about ingredients like, oh, this is a natural ingredient, this is not. What are the ingredient profiles of this? Or how is it toxic to the environment or not? Like aerosols, for example, are not really selling anymore as much because they're bad for the environment. People are demanding more sulfate-free products abroad. Yes, also in Pakistan, but at a lesser rate. So we feel like Abroad, we see there's more uptake towards climate change, being nicer to the environment, not testing on animals, being more cognizant towards how we treat planet Earth, the kind of packaging we use. We're not seeing that much in Pakistan as much as we'd like to, because that's what we stand for, and we spend a lot of money, developing those processes for Pakistan. And at the end of the day, 95% of our business is here. But that is something that we haven't seen that much of, and that I was hoping to see post-COVID, that people would, start being more cognizant about the environment. We haven't seen that yet.
And do you think this will change? Do you think maybe there's more awareness again, as to what Ehsan's point was before, that maybe it's lack of awareness, lack of maturity of the market. Maybe it'll change when they see what's happening in the rest of the world?
I sincerely hope so. I mean, I'm a tree hugger, I'm an environmentalist. It's one of the reasons why I started Conatural. I certainly hope that there is more uptake on this. Yes, it's lack of awareness. It's also, I mean, if you look at all of Pakistan, I think it's also poverty. So it's like meeting the bottom line for people. There definitely has been a change in the last 5 years, where people are now, at least someone is out there talking about recycling, talking about animal rights. The Islamabad High Court case, if you heard about, Kayan, the elephant. So of course now the media is picking up these things as well in small ways, and I really hope there is more uptake. I think it'll take a long time, but I think that for sure, I mean, Generation Z and some millennials hopefully should be taking this forward more seriously.
Ehsan, so during the COVID crisis, naturally the number of orders, the online spending suddenly increased. So how did Daraz manage to overcome some of the logistical challenges? Because it could become a nightmare. I mean, yes, there's a lot more business, but to cope with it suddenly, were you prepared for it? What was it that you did beforehand, or were you able to do it, very quickly once the crisis occurred?
Okay, so first, just for the benefit of the listeners, let me explain sort of what were some of the operational issues, and then I'll sort of walk through how we solved it. So one is obviously when demand picks up, you obviously need to facilitate in multiple ways. It starts all the way from getting your sellers to fulfill. Then it goes eventually to your sort center. So you need sorting facilities that can actually sort these products. Then it needs to go to either first mile, then middle mile, then eventually last mile. So there's a lot of legs to it. As a consumer, you sort of think that you click and then it arrives, and it's a bit like magic, but the operations behind it are quite challenging. And I think we were fortunate in one instance, at least one of the decisions we made about 2 years ago was to build Daraz Express. And Daraz Express is now, mashallah, has a fleet of 2,500 Dex Heroes. So our riders and our agents, delivery agents across the country. We have 50 hubs in 19 cities. We have 4 warehouses. And this obviously came to our benefit and our, at this time, because we were actually able to deploy and really start relying on our own forces to be able to do this. Having said that, there was a lot of issues, right? I mean, every day there was a different hub in a different city in a different area getting closed, and if the police would shut down one area and they would arrest one hero, then you were always sort of trying to juggle with it, because and the circulars, I'm sure you remember, but were coming at like they were more frequently than I was eating in the day. So you were sort of no one, even the authorities didn't know what time is this area supposed to shut down. Is it supposed to be 1 p.m., 2 p.m., 5 p.m.? So it was all over the place. So that became very difficult from a customer experience thing for us to manage. And I would say that we were probably some of the best suited to be able to solve it, because we had our own infrastructure. What we did though is obviously and I think it's very important in this to keep the customer in the loop. Is that, look, if and the first lockdown when it happened was March 23rd. This was during our Pakistan Day campaign. So we had to cancel a huge number of orders, and it was just something we couldn't do. And it was something we couldn't deliver though. So we had to go to the customers and say, sorry, but this is not something that we can do right now, because we don't even know when the markets will open. So I think it was we were fortunate that we were able to scale very quickly. We got the right support from our 3PL partners as well. But to be very honest, they were also being stretched. It turned very quickly. I think the other thing that helped us, so the first was the infrastructure. Number 2 is when we do campaigns like 11/11, we sort of do like it's like we're walking to suddenly being in a McLaren F1 and going. So we are often have to scale our business on a weekly basis like that. So when we do an 11/11, we're doing 50x of what we were potentially doing before. So because of that, I think we were sort of used to it. What I think was a bit difficult was just the changing environment, right? So you like I said, you had to change so many things so quickly, and sort of and it was uncharted territory, so you weren't sure which direction to go in. But I think we were sort of fortunate that we had our own infrastructure in place.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, because it was much of it was not in your control. If it was timings and things that were changing all the time. Okay, Shayaan, we have seen home shopping evolve into a marketplace over time, and its focus has shifted from just tech products and game gadgets to now lots of things like home appliances and stuff like that. So what made you diversify? Was there any one thing? Was it demand? What was it that, when was it that you decided, okay, I need to now diversify, need to add on different categories? Can you take us through that, and so that we understand?
Right.
And
So
how has
we
it
were
affected
always
your overall growth?
right. So we were always working with a lot of sellers, but we were more of a retail website in the earlier days because the concept of buying through a different seller from our platform was very new for people, and we thought the market was not ready. But with passage of time, we've always had those sellers. With passage of time, we just started displaying them on the website. We never used to display that before. But since that happened, people generally did get an idea that there is a marketplace. That is that is how we generally feel that we are more of a marketplace now than just retail.
Okay, terrific. Second question that I had for you is, there are a lot of specialized online retailers that have come in during the last few years, and they continue to have a market presence along with the large invested companies like the Daraz. How can they continue to compete and carve a niche for themselves?
Right. So
Is
before
there
I get
room
into this,
for them side by
uh,
side with the marketplaces?
Jehan, just to mention why we went into other categories was we always believe that specializing a category is very important before we start jumping into other categories. It's very easy to
Right.
build categories and have different categories on your website, but it's extremely difficult to specialize that market, have relationships in the market with the vendors, get to work with the people who are really importers and people who really control inventory. So once we realize that we have perfected the electronic segment in both segments of our consumer business and the B2B side of our business, that's when we started diversifying into other categories. And in terms of all these niche players, I think there's this huge opportunity for these niche players to come in and offer a specialized taste to that particular category. Customers generally do like tailor-made experiences for different categories. And if you have the right set of product knowledge and you could optimize your website on search, there's a lot of traffic that exists in Pakistan over search, right? So if you could be a very razor focused marketplace or a online retail store which focuses on a specific category, you could still compete with Daraz or Home Shopping for that matter, because you need to see that with Daraz or Home Shopping, we have various different categories. And the percentage of people coming to the camera category would be way less as opposed to the overall website, obviously. So if there is someone who is just focused towards cameras and he could rank himself better than Home Shopping or Daraz, then he definitely has an opportunity to attract more customers. And provided he has the right set of merchandising, then he could get into, they could acquire a lot of customers, do some sales, and still be profitable. I think that's another very important aspect of these small businesses who are trying to come in for a place like Pakistan with pretty much no VC funding around, it's very important that in those early days, people could build a business out of their startup more than anything, and they could. And I think the best way would be to pick up their own category, select their niche, work on the SEO side of things, and I think there's a lot of opportunity left in pretty much every category that we see.
Myra, is there an increased focus as far as Conatural is concerned on investing in your online channels, or does physical retail still continue to form the core pillar of your sales strategy?
No, absolutely online. So when we started about 5 years ago, we were only online. We were actually forced to go to retail as I said before, that retail and online kind of the boom came simultaneously in Pakistan. And so we were kind of forced to go online, and also because the retailers wanted us. And we also felt that a lot of customers said to us that they tried our product online. At the end of the day, we're selling shampoo, we're selling a cream. These are also grocery items. So a lot of our customers came to us, they tried us online, they loved it, and they said, oh, when I go to Springs and I'm buying my grocery, it'll be amazing if you were there. Or when I go to Al Fatah, when I go to Hyperstar and I'm buying my groceries for the month, that's when I pick up my shampoo or my toothpaste or my face cream, etc. So all the retailers came to us, which is how our retail journey started. It's only 2 years ago that we said that even in a retail store, whether you go to Springs or whether you go to any of these big hypermarts, what we wanted to give our customers an experience we couldn't do just on the shelf. That's why we went into our own physical stores. But online, remains a very key focus for us. We want to, all of our efforts right now are for digital, and our physical presence is just literally to give legitimacy to the brand and for people who are newcomers or who are walking by hypermarkets and stuff. But our whole strategy is based online. So make no mistake, we were the first ones online in our niche and in our category, and we hope to spend a lot of time and effort building that out. We've done some very good things. Some things are missing. So, in the next 2 years, we hope to overcome those as well. But definitely, I feel online is the future, and that's where we want to be making the most investments.
So there's some shout outs here. Nida Farid says, Ehsan, a lot of stuff I ordered on Daraz that was coming from China during lockdown came on time, whereas a lot of AliExpress orders are several months late. So great job. How did you manage that during lockdown to make sure that the orders coming from China were on time?
Yeah, no, I think we've actually, we've spent a lot of effort in the last 2 years since we launched the Global Collections channel on really ensuring that we have a streamlined logistics. And I think because for AliExpress, it's all markets are sort of their markets, whereas we are just focusing on products right now, at least from China. And I think one of the key focuses for us will be actually this year is continue expanding that to get products from other countries for Pakistani customers. But the reason is because this is our only international real business. So that's, I think, how we were able to sort of do it, because we, it matters a lot more to us, frankly.
Okay. Nida also has a shout out for Shayaan. Shayaan, your website has a lot more power information for appliances than other e-commerce websites. Good job on that. We use a lot of that data collection on our website. So yeah, her website is savejewels.com. So why have you decided, Shayaan, that you will include so much power information? Is it to create awareness amongst consumers as to what a better product is, what's going to save them a lot of energy? Why is that? Because I didn't notice it, to be honest, but Nida is in that space. So I guess that's why it's important for her that people start noticing these things.
Right, so very early on, we realized that in a journey of a customer trying to purchase an electronic product online, he used to come to our website, check the prices, and then probably go to some other platform to get more information, which is probably check unboxing video, maybe check out different blogs and reviews. We realized that we need to have all that content within the website so that we are not allowing our customer to go elsewhere before he could make his purchase. Then simultaneously we realize that these are complicated products and they tend to be explained in a certain manner before we could see the conversions happening. And over the years, we realized, content is king and content does increase the number of conversions. So we tend to focus a lot on those areas. It does help us in terms of ranking ourselves much better so that we have, customers flowing into home shopping, provided if they're searching for that particular product.
Okay. So Nida is not restricting her comments to just one of you. Her final comment is for Myra, and she says, I ordered my bhabhi's birthday gift from your site yesterday just because I saw the Nest.io poster for this event, and your mom shares your posts all the time. Okay, so we were instrumental in actually getting you a sale. Okay, now, Myra, I'll start with you with one of the questions that came in earlier, but we haven't been able to get to. Sana Farid says, if customers are loyal to one brand, why is it that when a new brand enters the market and they offer packages, deals, why does the consumer move to the new brand even if they've been loyal to that one brand from the beginning? So is that good or bad? She wants to know. How is it that they change preferences like that so quickly?
Actually interesting. So I think this comes to the point of value, which I think Ehsan discussed earlier in the talk, is that the Pakistani consumers are very, very value conscious, value for money conscious. So if they see a deal, and even if there's like a 50 rupee difference, they'll jump at it. But secondly, what's more relevant now is if you read the McKinsey report, which was published a couple of weeks ago, is that with COVID, brand loyalty has gone away. There is no such thing as brand loyalty anymore. And that is mainly because most of the brand loyalties that were there, especially in consumer goods, were expensive, luxurious items. And so I guess the data collected was from there. So the big luxurious item brands, there's no more loyalty. And what also offset that was that a lot of companies had huge supply chain issues during COVID. I mean, the world's very connected. Like one part comes from China, the other part comes from Japan. There's a factory somewhere else. Half the world is shut down. There are so many supply chain issues that if I needed something online or otherwise and I couldn't find my brand, then I very easily switched. And they've seen this dramatically everywhere. Throughout the world. It's not just for Pakistan, it's just not for the UK or France, Germany, it's everywhere that brand loyalty is goodbye. So I feel that that's a very interesting point for every company, is that if brand loyalty has gone away because of COVID, then you need to innovate. And what are the things you're going to do for people to come back to you? Because suddenly if they loved you, they don't love you anymore. And they think that it's so easy to switch. So I feel like companies will have to innovate. They're going to have to create newer, more exciting marketing strategies for consumers to always remember them and to always come back. So I hope that answers your question.
I want to add something to this as well, and it's actually, I think it's a very interesting phenomenon that's happening in the consumers. And when you look at, for example, in North American markets, where there's so many sellers that sell things online. And I was actually just thinking about this morning because I was on Instagram and I saw this reel that they've launched, and they essentially paid a bunch of TikTok influencers to come and do it on Instagram. And it's very interesting that the way we even perceive celebrities, maybe 30 years ago, I was thinking, okay, Denzel Washington was a celebrity because he was on TV. Now, actually, a celebrity is made because the consumers make him or her a celebrity. What that means is actually that the product that you sell is very much dependent on, does it solve the customer's problem? And you can actually very quickly understand if you are able to cater to the customer, you can actually make an entire business out of it. And that's why there's this phenomenon of lack of brand loyalty is actually quite profound. And that's why new incumbents are able to enter, because you really start focusing on the customer experience and what the customer really wants, and you really need to focus on what is it that I'm solving for. And it was interesting. I was buying some clothes, I think from Nike or Adidas, some gym clothes, and my cousin asked me that day, have you heard of, I think it was like Gymshark or something? And I said, no, I've never heard of it. And it's essentially it was a Shopify based business that has started, and now it's going head to head with some of the biggest players. And you see that with a lot of different companies, because they're able to solve for a customer's problem that sometimes a lot of big brands are not able to. And really the mindset has changed in that you don't necessarily need huge TV advertising. You don't necessarily need all. There's very creative ways to be able to get to your customer, and solve those problems for them.
Okay. So now let's move to one important question that, there were so many questions from participants that I really wanted to get to this question. Do you see us moving away from cash on delivery and having customers really use digital payments? And what will it take to get more, more customers to shift to digital payments? Shayaan, shall we start with you?
Right. So we've for the longest time have been saying this, that COD is not scalable, especially if you want to do it in a sustainable manner. I think $5 million is that magic number where when you reach, you start really realizing all the challenges around COD, because you can see all the cash losses happening around you. And when we reached that point, we took a step back, and we wanted to fix the business model, and we started restricting cash on delivery, because we realized a lot of the customers that were coming to us for the first time were mostly referred through someone, or they were following our product page for quite a lot of days before they eventually made that transaction. So the trust element was somewhat there. We started shutting down COD. This was 2017 was the first time when we started shutting COD for all the rural areas, the tier 2, tier 3 cities. And we did see some of the orders going away. The revenues did come up, but our bottom line improved drastically because we weren't making all those cash losses anymore. The business model got optimized much better. So we get a lot of strength in our business model when we let go of cash on delivery. I think we started this, and we do feel that this change will happen, and a lot of the e-commerce companies will eventually come to this point where they realize that there are a lot of challenges really scaling beyond the $5 million mark while running cash on delivery, especially if you want to run it in a sustainable manner. So I do feel that digital is the way forward with all the wallets coming in. What we're doing right now, because we restricted, and post-COVID, we are 100% prepayment website. We don't have cash on delivery whatsoever. Yet we saw a 3x on our orders. So that does tell that if you have the right set of value propositions, people will go out of the way to make advance payments. It's just that you need to focus on your product and really build those value propositions right. And once you have those, you can kind of dictate terms. If you have not just the price, I mean, I wouldn't agree that price is the only reason people would, go about making their decisions. It has a lot to do with the delivery time. It has a lot to do with the brand that they're dealing with. With a market like Pakistan, people have good and bad experiences online. So they generally like to work with people they are comfortable with. And they might just keep ordering even if the price is slightly high. So we've seen this over the years. People don't mind paying slightly extra over to us, provided we could give them a much better experience. And I think that's what's really important right now, to focus on the product, build those right set of value propositions, which would enable consumers to even go out of the way and make payments in advance. And yeah, I mean, life's great once you are taking payments in advance, because your business model really optimizes. You can start doing drop shipping from all across Pakistan without you being involved in any way whatsoever. So we don't really need the hubs. We don't have the warehousing. We're an asset-light company. We're essentially able to do that because there are hardly any returns in our model. The sellers could directly ship to everyone in Pakistan, and it works great for us. We were the earliest store to start off cash on delivery, because at that time, cash on delivery was very different. People could check their goods before they paid for it, right? So that was the only reason why we went for cash on delivery. But over the years, what happened was that cash on delivery totally changed, and now it's more about pay us, and then you can keep complaining about the product. So since that happened, we decided that now that people cannot check their goods at the time of delivery, then might as well ask people to pay us directly. So if anything goes wrong, it's us who has to take care of the customer, and people are comfortable with the commitments that we're making to them, and that's why it tends to work. I do feel moving forward, people will be going towards wallets and advance payments and prepayments, especially after we have a dispute resolution mechanism in place, where consumers can dispute a transaction and get more control over that transaction. I think then dealing digitally would be a much safer option as opposed to dealing in cash.
Thank you.
Sorry, John, we can't really hear you right now.
And that they have used. Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Yes, we can.
yeah, now you're audible. Now I think you're gone entirely.
I think we lost her. Ehsan, can you continue answering
Right.
the
Yeah,
question?
yeah, sure. So I think for just the benefit of the listeners, I just want to explain why also why e-commerce companies don't like COD. I think it's important to understand what is the reason for that. So as a very easy example to understand is if there's a COD delivery for us at Daraz, it's almost 15% more likelihood that that order will not be successfully delivered versus if it's a prepaid delivery. And what that means is we have to continue, that increases your cost significantly to reattempt this delivery. And it's very simple things, right? I mean, if you're not home, someone shows up and you say, "मैं बाहर हूँ, आप कल आइएगा." But that has a lasting impact on the profitability of the business, right? So that's why COD is generally disliked. Number one. Number two, the reason COD is disliked by e-commerce companies is that it takes a long time to get the money from the 3PL companies, and that. To be honest with you, it's one of the reasons we built Dex is so that we, at the end of the day, I have my money, right? And it's actually a very painful process because there are small retailers are oftentimes stuck for months. Ideally, they're not, but and no one will admit openly that they are. But there are times when they're stuck without their money for a long time. In a country where your cost of capital is so high, you cannot be left without your money for like 2 months. It's your entire profit margin is gone in just your cost of your cost of cash. So I think, but having said that, I think the struggle here for prepayments is that first and foremost we have 1% of the population that has credit cards. That's a very, very small penetration of credit cards. Then you have, between JazzCash, EasyPass, two biggest players, maybe around 12, 13 million people that have wallets. So again, that's not a huge number of people that actually have accessibility. So for us, what we've really found is that in order to really make, and what does it come down to? Fundamentally, it comes down to increasing that percentage. When you have 1% of the population having credit cards and 13 million people having wallets, the problem is that there's just not enough people that have digital payment methods available. And why is that happening today? That's what we have to come down to. The reason that is happening today is because cash is superior to digital payments, no matter what we say. If I buy something on a credit card like Visa or MasterCard today, in Pakistan, it can potentially take me upwards of 45 days to get my refund. What does that mean? That means companies like Daraz go out and build their own wallet so that customers can get their refunds instantaneously. Whereas in the United States and Canada, if I buy a product, I return it. The other day, I returned a product to Banana Republic. The next morning, I had my refund. In a country, again, cost of capital being excessively high, 45 days being stuck without your money is not okay. Second, the cost associated to digital payments is too high. When you have to pay an MDR that's excessive, I'll tell you the disadvantage, right? Like now, if I give Shayaan 100 rupees and he's going to give Myra 100 rupees, she's going to give you 100 rupees. Eventually, we will have 100 rupees. But if I give it to him in a digital method, it's eventually going to come back to you as 96 rupees. So the cost of that transaction prevents people from adopting that, and that's where we need government intervention to start incentivizing digital payments. Right. So if recently you saw the Punjab government incentivizing off credit card and wallet use by saying, okay, you'll get an advantage on your tax. That is the right way to go, because the retailers need to be able to start accepting it so that people start finding that they're not being held at a disadvantage. If I pay with my credit card anywhere in the world, I don't have to pay more than cash, right? And that should never be the case. And of course, there's everywhere in the world there's an MDR that the sellers have to pay. In Pakistan, it's higher. So we need to work towards reducing that MDR. We need to work on reducing that cost. And once you do that, then the adoption will start increasing. Once that adoption starts increasing, people will see the convenience of it. because I pay with my card for every single transaction I do online in Pakistan. And the reason I do it is because if I'm not home, the delivery agent can just leave it with whoever is at home. If not, he can leave it on behind one of the gamlas. And now everyone knows that my stuff is probably behind the gamla, but that it's very convenient for me, right? Whereas with COD, there's a lot of pains, but the fundamental issue is COD costs you zero today. And that once we change that foundationally, then I think we will actually get a bigger adoption than just 1%. And finally, the only other point is I would say is that we are a very cash-rich economy, right? And I think that again comes with a little bit of incentive that's needed from the government, is that when credit card transactions are done, we need to start getting a formalized economy. And in order to do that, we need that incentive that people want to use their credit cards and get formalized. It's not going to happen for free. No one wants to get formalized because it's a lot more things you have to do. Why do companies not go public? Because there's a lot more people you have to answer to. It's the same reason you don't want to get formalized, because there's a lot more questions you have to answer. So we need to break down those barriers, because those are the issues we have to get prepayment to where it needs to be today.
Myra, what percentage of your customer base is actually using digital, and do you see that increasing? What can we do? What's your take on this?
I don't think there's anyone in Pakistan who hates COD as much as I do. and honestly, it's the reason why I keep crying about this. Yeah, you're probably up there as well. The reason why I cry about this is that no matter how hard we try, like we've given discount, but like we're actually going to do a new campaign on like discount codes on like pay by credit card, even though we have to pay so much fees, as Ehsan was saying, to credit card companies to accept those payments online. Whether it's online, like there's a card transaction and the fee is high as compared to the rest of the world. But it's less than 2%, which is on credit. The rest is on COD. One thing I want to add though, which I think a few people don't talk about as much as they should in Pakistan about the online space, if I may, is that I feel, and I've done a bit of research on this with some leading brands in Pakistan, and I've done some surveys, and a lot of people actually, they hate adopting online is because they feel that the rider who delivers to their house will always call them and be like, Bibi ji, zara bataye maine goal daire se kahan hai. They'll always ask you for a direction. And they'll be like, acha, main yahan pahunch, and he'll call again and he'll be like, acha, main piche hu, tab maine khabbe haath hona hai ya maine seedhe jaake, he'll keep asking. And then he'll message you when he's at the gate. And that's like so irritating. And I feel like the reason why I think uptake has also been less and will continue to be less, one of the barriers is that we don't have a proper postcode system. Everywhere else in the world is a postcode. You type in that postcode and you know where to go. But whereas in Pakistan, the deliveries are always like, I don't know, 121E1 Hali Road, and Hali Road is a long road, and like he may not be able to get it on Google Maps, and the rider may not have WhatsApp, and if he does, he'll call up the customer and be like, can you please share your PIN? And like, that's the last thing I want to do. I'm like, I've paid for my delivery, and most customers are like that, I've paid 200 rupees for my delivery, why can't you just get it to my door? Why do I have to spend 3 minutes on the phone trying to explain to you that tumne aage left or right jana hai? And I feel that the government or whoever is working in this space, I don't know, but they need to sort this out, because the future is digital, but the enabling factor is for people to get there without making that telephone call, and that's what makes it perfectly digital. Do you agree, Ehsan? I mean, do you get that as well for the Daraz?
Yeah, I mean, the number of failed deliveries you get because of wrong addresses is huge. I mean, it's again, I think it's an infrastructural issue. I think,
Yeah.
to be honest with you, the guys who have done really well to solve this are guys like Kareem and Baikia, where they have pin drops that, you can solve it. And I think one of the issues here that you'll notice is that our existing 3PL companies have generally traditionally been built on an envelope delivery model, right? Where I mean, if in e-commerce, I want to know exactly when the rider is showing up, so I'm not in the bathroom. I want to know exactly what's happening, right? And that's very different from how we've traditionally built some of the 3PL companies. And it's actually an issue that I think we also have at Daraz. And one thing that we're trying to solve for is exactly what Myra is talking about, because it is a nuisance for the customer. And hopefully towards the end of the year, we will try to release something that will make it easier. But it's the number of failed deliveries you get because of just address.
Yeah, and also because the customer is not picking up the phone, so the driver just doesn't know where to go, and he can't be asked to like keep going around in circles on the same street. So, But
Right.
again, if it wasn't COD, then it would be like, you'd be forced to deliver it. But because it's COD, I feel like people also get lazy that they know it's COD, so the logistics companies will just return it, and you'll be like, and then the customer will call up the brand the next day and be like, my stuff wasn't delivered, but like, hey, we sent it, and then it's just a cycle, and then you have to re-deliver it and again pay for it. So I just hate COD, and we need postcodes. That's my
Shayan,
answer.
That's why we shut down.
yeah, yeah. Shayan, Shayan
Very
needs to
sorry.
get back. Such passionate responses to the COD question. What do you think, Shayan? But then you moved to online payment a long time ago, right? Because, is that because of the basket size? Because it's just, the payments are extremely large, right? For home
No,
appliances,
it's
for
generally
kitchen.
because some of the things that we're all going through, some of the problems that we're sharing right now, is just that we've been there for a very long period of time. We eventually got sick of the whole thing, and we started, we made the plunge of, shutting COD down. It was something which obviously some of the people, even within the team, weren't really encouraging us to do that. But it did help us in a lot of ways. And the way I see it, and I understand, Ashley's point where only 1% of people have access to credit cards, and I agree with him on that one. But at the same time, we know that there are 80 million households who tend to pay their utility bills in a bank, and they are very well aware of how money needs to be paid in a bank. When I say prepayments, it could be a bank transfer. Out of all the payments that we get, 80% are IBFT slash bank deposits. And we could now see a lot of people paying in our bank account through Easy Paisa outlets, because that wasn't something that was open a few years ago. But now anyone could just walk to any of their Jazz Cash or Easy Paisa outlets and pay you in their bank account. So it has somewhat become more convenient. And then there are a lot of people who tend to use online banking with their banks, through which they could transfer. The reason we shut it down is because we feel that experiences and habits are created with passage of time. And we need to get the customers ready to engage in a certain manner. And so that we don't keep changing the experience over and over again. So if we could build a habit for them, and then pretty much hope for all these wallets to kind of come in a year or two. There are a lot of licenses that are in progress. I think that's when our model would really tend to, work much better than how it is right now, because we've kind of programmed our customers that everything is prepaid. And it's a matter of time. I mean, it is difficult initially. Nobody likes, letting go of, some of your revenue. But then for the entire organization, it's healthy, it's sustainable. You don't get into a lot of the headaches, and you notice that there's certain advantages that you get through this in your business model over others. So yeah, we focus towards this, and I think COD is a bad idea. I've never seen any marketplace all over the world, globally that is, who are profitable, and running with COD or not. I mean, even if we forget the profitable part, they're burning a lot of capital while running COD. It's an expensive business to be in. I mean, you tend to get into a lot of trouble. I mean, whether that is your riders going away with cash, or whether that is your products being stolen, whether that is courier companies holding on to your cash. There could be 100 million reasons why COD is a bad idea at a certain scale. I wouldn't say that everyone should just start off having start off without COD, because it's very important that you tend to earn the earlier days. You do offer COD so that you can acquire a certain amount of customers, build a certain brand name and a following, get that reliability factor worked out, right? And once you have that, then let the market play its role, where people would do a little bit of research about you as a brand. If they feel comfortable, then they would make the plunge of trusting you with your brand. And yeah, for some it works out, and if it does, there's a positive word of mouth around it, and you keep acquiring good decent customers who could just pay you upfront, and you could have a lean model more than anything.
Okay. So I was going to end with that question, but the question from Taimur Khan, which I would like all of you to address. He says, for those of you importing and exporting products and materials, how has your experience been with regards to ports, customs, clearing, all of that? So, Myra, if we can start with you.
How was the
You do
experience?
export your products, or sorry,
Sorry, was it export or import? What did you ask?
both export and import. So,
Okay.
whichever one you do, or both.
Yeah. So I'll start with import. Yes, we do import a lot of raw materials and packaging for our products. And the last couple of years has been difficult, mainly for two reasons. The first reason is obviously the depreciation of the rupee. So it's become very, very expensive to do so. And then, well, actually, there are three reasons. The second reason is that custom duties, even on raw materials, have been going up substantially, which also has made it a much more expensive process for us. But thirdly, and most importantly, has been the fact that Pakistani businesses have been unable to uh, pay in advance for goods, even when you're importing them. And so, for example, let's say I have a Chinese supplier or a Taiwanese supplier of my shampoo bottles, and I need to give him, but the order is not big enough. It's not $25,000 order, so I can't negotiate an LC because the Chinese supplier is like, if it's less than $25,000, you cannot negotiate an LC. But the Chinese, because he's Chinese, he wants 1/3 advance payment. And so, but I can't make it because the State Bank of Pakistan had stopped advance payments because of our balance of payment crisis. So it was a very, very big problem. And we actually got into lots of cash cycle issues because we had to negotiate big LCs with our suppliers and get basically instead of being in time, like let's suppose I know how many shampoos I'm going to sell in the next 3 months, and I would get that inventory. I had to stockpile inventory because of this rule, which made it very, very difficult from a cash cycle perspective. And these problems are not easing out anytime soon, as far as I can see. As a matter of fact, I feel that the dollar is going to further appreciate against the rupee. I feel the custom duties are going to continue to go up, and the advance payment stuff is still not fixed. And it requires an approval process, which is just takes too long. And then from the export side, unfortunately, yes, we've had a lot of issues. So in the last 2 years, whenever we've been exporting, and the issues have been mainly been with the ANF. Now, I did not know this until you actually start exporting, is that apparently there was a lot of narcotics being exported with cosmetic products in Pakistan that was caught, I don't know, once, twice, or whenever. But now the when we're exporting, it's not that we make one product. We have 100 SKUs, and of those 100 SKUs, we might be exporting 200 of one unit, 1,000 of the other, 2,000 of the other, so on and so forth. And that kind of what makes our basket of an export. The PSQCA and the ANF have made life very miserable for us because they say that whatever you are exporting, you have to produce a PSQCA report of the last 10 days of each product that you're exporting. Now the cost is just insane. And each test costs 25,000 rupees. Now, maybe the soap that I'm making to export, I didn't actually make it last week. I made it 3 weeks ago. It has a shelf life of 2 years. So, and I've raised this at many forums. I've raised this at the PSQCA meetings. I've raised this with the Pakistan Cosmetics Manufacturing Association. But I feel that ease to do business as far as export is not there or as much as it should be for Pakistani businesses to go abroad. And this is a very, very big thing. As a matter of fact, last year, our shipment was stuck at customs because of ANF for about a month. And we've constantly gone to them and be like, well, if you want to check it for narcotics, if you want to check it for any bad substances, go and test it, or test it yourself, or do fully check it. But they don't do that. They're like, no, you have to produce the report. And I'm like, well, if anyone actually was going to be smuggling anything, they can just produce the report anyway of something that's good and give you a correct report. So I feel like the systems are also not built, and the infrastructure is not there for ease of export for small businesses anyway. So
What
we've had
about
a lot of
payment?
problems.
What about receiving payments from overseas? Is that a problem?
No. Receiving payments is not a problem from abroad. Generally, that is not a problem. Paying out is a problem. Yes, I do know that B2B receiving is not a problem. B2C can sometimes be a problem. But I mean, most credit card companies and stuff, if they're paying by card, is not a problem. Of course, PayPal is still not allowed here, and a lot of our customers abroad who want us to ship small shipments to them and want to use PayPal, we can't do that. But generally, B2B, we haven't had any problems receiving payments. But yes, paying abroad, we've had a lot of problems.
Ehsan, you want to add anything to that? Do you have problems? Have you faced any problems with imports, exports, and what kind of problems?
I
Custom,
don't. I
bank.
wouldn't. To be honest, I wouldn't be as well versed as Myra in this. So I would rather. I don't think I have anything significant or valuable to add here.
Okay. Shayaan?
So we are a marketplace. We don't really import or export goods. It's usually the sellers who do that, and we are aware of the fact that sellers have had problems importing goods in the last couple of months, I would say. In terms of exporting, we don't really have that kind of a market. People do gift a lot in Pakistan, so we do get payments from outside, and that can be a challenge at times if they, for some reason, decide not to pay using their credit card and they opt for paying via bank transfer, which does happen, but it usually takes a very long time for the bank to eventually clear those amounts. So yeah, those are some of the challenges that we see. We don't really get ourselves involved in doing, getting into trade while we're a marketplace. We think that's a direct conflict of interest. So all these kind of activities are usually done directly by the sellers.
Okay. Thanks a lot, guys. I think we went way over time. We were supposed to be on from 5 to 6, and it's now 6:36. So I'm conscious of the fact that you guys have probably got a lot more to do. But apparently, there was a lot of interest in a lot of areas, and you have been able to answer a lot of more questions than I thought we would be able to. Thanks very much. Maybe we'll do this again, but with a segmented approach rather than trying to cover so many areas all at once. It's really interesting the knowledge that I think I personally have been able to gain about what it involves, this whole e-commerce business, and what all of you have been through to get to where you are now, and consumer preferences changing, to be able to pivot and change with them, to be able to focus on infrastructure and make sure that customers do not suffer. I'm sure there are complaints, there are always complaints, and you learn through the mistakes that you guys make, I'm sure, like the rest of us do. But as long as the customer service improves, things get better and customers are happier. I think online commerce, I feel that it's going to continue. It may drop for a bit, but it will come back because the convenience factor, also the fact that you don't have to, go to multiple shops in order to find the product that you're looking for. The mall experience will be a social experience, I think, more than a buying experience, because I personally, having to carry the products and then go and put them in the car, go back, all that kind of thing I would like to avoid. So I've always been a big proponent of online shopping, and I hope that Pakistan is going to get there. I mean, we've been shopping online with Amazon and everything for a long time. Why not online shopping with our local marketplaces and local retailers? Thanks again for your time, and it's been great talking to you.
Thank you very
Thank
much
you
for
so
having me.
much.
Pleasure
Thank
to
you
be
so
here.
much.
Thank